Good morning and welcome to today's service. We will begin with fruit and floral offering by the 4th through 8th grade class. This time we will have silent meditation led by Smitty sensei.
Kansho, let us cease from wrath and refrain from angry looks, nor let us be resentful when others differ from us. For all humans have a heart, and each heart has its own leanings. Their right is our wrong, and our right is their wrong. We are not uniquely sages, nor are they unquestionably fools. Both of us are simply ordinary beings. How can anyone lay down a rule by which to distinguish right from wrong? For we are all, one with another, wise and foolish, like a ring which has no end. Namo, Amida. Namo, Amida. Namo, Amida. Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Today we are observing the June Shotsuki-Hoyo. At this time, Sensei will read the Shotsuki names for the month of June. Thank you.
You're welcome to come forward and offer incense as I read the names of the deceased. Toshiko Ogata, James Kida, Bob Nobuo Ito, George Hiroshi Masumoto, Tomio Nakano, Haru Girard, George Shuichi Tsubakihara, Ronald Iguchi, Shigeharu Nakamura, Tokio Hayashi. Masako Lawrence. Minoru Nakamura. Miyoshi Tanaka. Mizue couple. Sarae Kohara. Makiko Ishizu. Toshiko Mori. Tam Masakatsu Yonekura. Rani Ishisaki. Chieko Kida. J. Richard Teague. Ejiro Yamashita. George Yano. Naoe Yagura. Sandra Sachiko Takashima. Fumiko Shironaka. Kiyoshi Shinsato. Emi Fujimoto. Richard Shizuo Watanabe. Frank Yamada. Seiichi Shimizu. Tamotsu Matsumoto. Ichiji Ochi. Kuni Shimada. Kyoji Otomo. Yuru Shiraishi. Tamotsu Ojiri. Yuka Yamanokuchi. Midori Morimoto. Gitaro Hatoyue. Toichi Okamura. Kikuyo Kawasaki. Tsune Tsubota. Shigeo Fujimoto. Toshiko Yamada. Yozo Kawato. Rokuichi Hanano. Jukichi Yamanishi. Shojiro Sameshima. Yukino Sameshima. Shizu Moriyama. Shigeyuki Furuya. Matsue Morita. Hideo Iwata. Goichiro Hasayama. Isano Sugioka. Toichi Kodama. Hajime Yonekura. Minetaro Hosaka. Akito Matsui. Nobuko Ito. Masami Ito. Mika Sato. Again, you're welcome to come forward and offer incense today on behalf of a loved one who passed away in the month of June, whether I have read their name or not.
We will now have the sutra chanting Juseige on page 35.
Gagoncho segan hishimu jodo shigan fumanzok sefujo shogak ga omuryoko fuidai seshu Husai Shobingu Sefujo Shogak Gashi Jobundo Myosho Chojipo Kukyo Mishomon Sefujo Shogak Ryokujin Shonen Joe Shubongyo Shigu Shi, Jinriki and Daiko, Fusho Musaido, Shoujo San Kumyo, Kosai Shuyakunan, Kaihichi Egen, Meshi Konmoan, Heisoku Sho Akudo, Tsudaten Zen Shumon, Koso Jo Manzo, Ioro Jippo, Nichigaten Shujuki, Tenko On Pugen, Ishukai Hozo, Koseku Dokuho, Jo Dai Shuchu, Seppo Shishiku, Kuyo Isai Bu, Gusoku Shutoku Hon, Gan E Shinjo Man, Toku Isan Gai O, Nyobuten Mugechi, Tsudaten Mi Fusho, Gangaku Erik, Toshi Sai Shoson, Shiganya Koka, Daisen Okando, Koku Shotenin, Touchin Myoke, Namandabu, 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 Ganishikudoku, Byodo Seisai, Dohon Bodai Shin, Ojo Anrako. Gasho, Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Will everybody please stand for the recitation of our pledge, which is an insert inside the purple service book. Breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who tirelessly works to liberate all. Gasho, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Please be seated. We will now have a Dharma message by Smitty Sensei.
Well, good morning. It's good to see everybody here today. I sort of expected a lot of folks to take a little break or a breather after bazaar and so many things going on, graduation celebrations and whatnot. So I'm glad to see so many of you. And this is the last Sunday for the Dharma School year. I expected to hear a little cheer there. It seems like we just started a new Dharma School year, but I guess that was actually back in September of 2023, an entire 9 months ago. So, since this is the last Dharma School session until next September, this is also my last chance to conduct a pop quiz until September. This one should be really easy. Okay, everybody ready? First question, what was the theme of this Dharma School year? Wow! Sounds like just about everybody knew that one and certainly got a good loud shout out on it. Okay. Second question, who is the Buddha of wisdom and compassion? If you need a hint, the Buddha statue is, I think I heard it. Amida Buddha, great. I'm pretty sure just about everybody knew that one today too. Okay, now, for the third and most difficult question, what is compassion? Okay, thanks. Caring, yes. Any other thoughts? Sure. Kindness, that's a good one. Empathy, whoa, okay. I think we had some students paying a lot of attention this year. I have to tell you, back in September, those are the same 3 questions I had asked then. And we all struggled with them a little bit. Because, well, we had just started the school year, right? But now, it sounds like everybody has learned quite a bit this past year. So that's fantastic. Join me in Gassho. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulty come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Namandab, 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 namandab. Okay, those words are from Metta, or the loving kindness meditation, and that can be found on page 94 in our purple-covered service book. And this meditation is voiced, and each being or a group of beings are wished well and happiness and compassion and peace and goodwill. And the aspiration or hope toward all beings opens and closes this meditation. And it progresses from all beings to ourselves, friends, strangers, enemies, and back to all beings, with a couple other categories in the middle as well. But today I'd like to focus on that hope of compassion toward ourselves, our friends, strangers, and enemies. And to help me illustrate this, I'd like to share a story from the Jataka tales that's about a king, a priest, and a wise crow among some other characters. So once in the distant past, the Buddha, while he was still a bodhisattva, took the form of a crow. Now in those days, pretty much just as in these days, a crow would survive and make its living however it could, scavenging and foraging inside the walls of the city and outside, in the villages, in the forests, and the fields. Although today, crows can often be found scavenging from the big black and blue bins that are used for trash and recycling. Although crows think of those bins as meals on wheels or to-go food, I think. But this story really starts with the king's high priest. One morning, the king's high priest woke up and left the city early, and he went out by the eastern gate and down to the river Ganges to bathe. In those days, the palace wasn't equipped with modern conveniences like showers and jacuzzi tubs, I guess, so they washed in the river. But when the priest was done bathing, he put on a fresh set of underwear and robes, and then he adorned himself with sweet scents, probably like aftershave and deodorant. And then he set a garland of jasmine flowers around his neck, and he returned to the palace. And as he approached the palace gate, there were two crows sitting high upon the gate. And one crow said to the other, "I have an idea. I'm going to let some droppings fall on the shiny head and robes of that priest. See him coming up from the river, freshly washed in his fine robes?" In other words, the crow said he was going to poop on the priest. "What?" said the second crow. "You would do what?" "This is a very powerful priest. He's the king's resident minister. If his anger is aroused, he could cause terrible things to happen, including the destruction of all the crows." But the first crow shrugged his shoulders and just ignored his friend's warning. "I can't help myself, I just have to do it." In his mind, the first crow was saying, "I can't stop myself. I announced it, and now I have to follow through. I feel compelled to perform this act of mischief, no matter what the consequences may be." And the first crow knows how hard it would be to take back this impulsive threat. Maybe he didn't want to back down after announcing his plan for mischief. Or maybe he has wanted to poop on the high priest for a long time. I don't know, but whatever the reason, the first crow was determined to follow through with his plan. "Well then," said the second crow, "we'll see what happens." And with that, the second crow flew away. And sure enough, just as the king's high priest came below the gate, the first crow, taking off into flight, let some droppings fall right on the priest's shiny head and fancy robes. And the priest, looking up, saw the source of his sticky, stinky humiliation, a black-winged crow. Anger rose up in his heart and his mind as he became determined to cause harm to the crow who caused him this shame and humiliation. But since all crows look alike from the human perspective, there was no way to limit retaliation to a single perpetrator. Therefore, the priest decided all crows must suffer for the actions of this one. Now, at the time, the story continues, there was a certain serving girl who was earning her wages by guarding the rice outside of the granary sheds, not far from the king's elephant stables. She had spread the rice in the sun to dry, and there she sat in the door of the shed guarding it. The day was hot, and it wasn't long before the young girl fell asleep. And a certain long-haired goat wandering about noticed the girl was off her guard, and he came up and began to nibble and chew on the sweet rice. And at the sound of his snuffling and chewing, the girl woke up and shooed him away. And she sat down once again, and once again she fell asleep. And the goat came back and continued to nibble and chew on the rice. And the girl woke up a second time, and a second time she shooed him away, and it all happened again, a third time exactly as before. Then the girl said to herself, "This goat, returning again and again, will eat up half the rice, and then I'm sure to lose my wages." So she went to a nearby cooking fire and took out a long, smoldering stick. And holding the stick by the unburned end, she returned to her seat by the granary shed and pretended to fall asleep. And when she heard the goat begin to nibble once more, the girl stood up and flung the burning stick, striking him on the long hair of his body, which caught fire. Unfortunately, the goat never learned about stop, drop, and roll. So, with his shaggy hair burning, the goat went leaping and jumping right to the elephant stables. When he got there, the goat hopped and jumped right into a pile of straw, picking the worst place to finally drop and roll. The straw blazed up, the stables caught fire, and before the fire could be put out, many of the elephants were badly burned. Now, the king's elephant caretakers and doctors couldn't find a cure for the burn wounds on the elephants' backs, and this was reported to the king. The king was distressed, for he was very fond of his elephants, and the king said to his high priest, "Sensei, do you know any cure for the burn wounds on my elephants' backs?" Conditions have come together to provide the king's high priest with exactly the circumstances he needed to satisfy his desire for revenge for the earlier pooping incident. "Yes, your majesty, I do," replied the king's high priest. "Have the caretakers and doctors use crow's fat." "Crow's fat?" asked the king. "Yes," explained the priest. "It's an ancient burn remedy handed down through many generations. Only you'll have to slaughter a great many crows if you want enough fat to heal the wounds on your elephants' backs." "Very well," said the king. He then declared, "Let the crows be killed and their fat obtained." The orders were given, and on that day, a great slaughter of crows began in the city. From the palace and temple roofs and the branches of the banyan trees, the king's archers shot them down. Black feathered bodies tumbled and fell. Heaps of dead crows could be seen in every street. They were gathered in carts and taken to the king's kitchens, where they were boiled in great cauldrons. But so little fat was obtained as to be of almost no use at all. Yet still the king's orders continued. The crows of the city were to be shot and killed. And a great fear was born in the crows of the city, this fear of death. And at the time, the Bodhisattva crow lived in the forest cemetery. And one night, one of the city crows came and told the Bodhisattva what has been happening in the city. And the Bodhisattva reflected, "Besides myself, there is no other who can cure the city crows of this fear." And so, selecting the loving kindness as his guide, he flew through the forest, over the gates of the city, and right to the king's palace, where he entered by an open window. And alighting before the king's empty seat, he hid himself beneath it. And the king was just entering the chamber as a lackey came forward to catch and remove the crow. But the king said, "No, let him be." And the Bodhisattva stepped out from under the king's throne and addressed the king. "Your Majesty," said the Bodhisattva crow, "I too am a king. A great fear has been born in my people, the fear of death. Is it not true, Your Majesty, that a king should do everything in his power for the well-being and safety of his people?" And the king was amazed to be addressed by this creature, but he nodded, and the Bodhisattva continued. "Your Majesty," the crow said, "your high priest has fallen under the influence of the poison of anger. He has spoken an untruth. He has told you that crow's fat will heal the burn wounds on your elephants' backs. But the truth is, crows have almost no fat at all. And what little fat we do have has no magic power to ease their pain." The king was so moved, not to mention surprised that the crows could speak, that he ordered a royal seat be given to the king of the crows, fresh water provided in a golden bowl, and sweet rice in a golden dish. And the Bodhisattva leapt up onto the seat, where he nibbled and drank. The Bodhisattva then instructed the king in the metta, or loving-kindness meditation. He asked for an end to the misguided slaughter of crows. He also asked for protection for all beings, that they may be happy and well, that no harm or difficulty come to them, and that they may live in peace and harmony. To both of these requests, the king agreed. The king then ordered a great amount of rice, probably about as much as we use for mochisuki, and he had it cooked and served to the remaining crows of the city. Well, the Bodhisattva crow, he had ordered a meal fit for that king. And the Bodhisattva crow ate and drank, and so did the remaining crows of the city. And bidding farewell to the king, the crow flew back to the forest cemetery, where he gathered about him all the crows of the forest, the villages, the fields, as well as the remaining crows in the city. And he said to them, "See how one impulsive act can cause so much suffering for so many? You will do well to remember the metta, or loving-kindness meditation, which can be found on page 94 of the BTSD's purple-covered service book. And let the teaching guide your actions." Now, I know that was a bit of a long story, but there were many instances in that cast of characters where they could have acted with more compassion toward themselves and other beings. The first crow who decided to dive bomb the high priest showed no compassion for the stranger by causing him unhappiness and difficulty when he dropped it on the priest. The serving girl showed no compassion toward herself when she had difficulty staying awake. And she had no compassion for the stranger, perhaps become enemy, in the form of a hairy goat, who was probably just very hungry. The high priest, consumed by the poison of anger, showed no compassion to his perceived enemy when he took revenge by convincing the king to slaughter all crows, causing them great unhappiness and harm. And the king showed compassion for his friends, the elephants, but with the goal in mind of decreasing his friends' suffering and difficulties, he's oblivious to the suffering of others, the strangers who were the crows that the king ordered to be killed and boiled. The wise Bodhisattva crow showed compassion for all beings, including friends, strangers, and enemies. But of course, as a Bodhisattva, compassion probably came a little easier to him than to the rest of us foolish, ordinary beings, even if he was a crow at the time. So please join me again in Gassho as we express our intent to show compassion to all. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulty come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Namandab, 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 namandab.
Thank you, Sensei, for the Dharma message. If you could please rise for the Gatha Sei Namo Amida Butsu on page 133. Please be seated. At this time, we will be celebrating June and July birthdays. If you have a June or July birthday, please come up and say your name and your birthday. Please say your name and your birthday.
Gregg, July 14th.
Julie, June 20th.
Bob, June 16th.
Kobe, June 17th.
Sylvia, June 20.
I'm Mitz Kawamoto, and my birthday is June 3rd.
My name's Arturo and my birthday is July 18th.
Junie, July 14.
We will now sing Happy Birthday, Dharma Friends. At this time, are there any announcements? We just want to remind everybody that the Donna group is collecting school supplies for the Streets of Hope until June 30th. There's a list and a box downstairs by the office.
Happy birthday, everybody. That's pretty cool. A quick announcement about two books that are new to us, and we just have them now in the bookstore behind there, and there will be a couple of copies in the members' lending library downstairs, except for this one. It's so popular that we're reordering it now, so we'll have even more. But Reverend Laverne had talked about moving forward just as you are. Some of you might have appreciated the simplicity and the soulfulness and the compassion in the pledge you just read, which comes from our current Gomonshu, Koju no Tani. And this book is in the same vein. That is very simple to understand. It's non-doctrinal, and it really speaks to a wide variety of people. Moving forward just as you are. As you can tell from the title, it echoes Reverend Smitty's Dharma talk about compassion for yourself. So we don't get down on ourselves, we recognize where we are, and we move forward just as we are. That's the message. And then also, some of you may have heard before of our Dharma messages from Reverend Masanori Watanabe, now deceased. He was at Oxford Buddhist Temple for many years. Some of you may know that he was the artist. He often did pastel pencil sketches of Shinran Shonin or Renyo or other important Buddhist figures. And the family, very sad, his parents had to go ahead and bury their own son. And the parents went ahead and did a lovely publishing job of a selection of his Dharma messages. And I commend this not just for the messages, but also for as a beautiful book. It's every message has another sketch by Watanabe Sensei, and it's also an example of Japanese style publishing in that if you have an important paperback book, you build in the slipcover. So even though it can't come off, they publish it with a jacket to indicate how nice it is, and the quality of the paper, the quality of the publishing is absolutely first rate as well. Anyway, these are only $8 and they're available in back. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody got to rest up from last weekend, or week. It was a long time of preparing for the bazaar. But on behalf of Mildred Kawasaki and myself, we would like to thank everyone for your support and your hard work. We know it's not easy, but it was another successful bazaar. And so we appreciate any comments that you have, so please see Mildred. No, you can tell me too. And anyway, so let's do it again next year, the first weekend of June, a Sunday, and then also join us for the Obo on August 3rd. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. I want to thank everyone for their support of Dharma School this year. We had a wonderful year, and in honor of that year, we're going to be having a celebration next Sunday. We won't be meeting here at Temple. We'll be at Roar Park, Area B, our old site for our picnic. Everybody, all the Sangha is invited to join us, and Dharma School will be providing the barbecue. But you're welcome to bring a side dish to share. We're going to have games with the junior YBA. It's always a lot of fun. We'll have a service that starts at 10 a.m. And we'll also be recognizing people who contributed to Dharma School throughout the year. And we're also going to be celebrating some important people, including our high school graduate this year, Andrea Covarrubias, who is graduating from Hilltop High and who will be going on to UCLA. So congratulations to Andrea. We hope to see everybody there at the picnic. Please join us.
So I want to just recognize celebrate our Sangha members, and I want to give a huge thank you to Mrs. Nancy Martinez, who is ignoring me as I'm mentioning her name, because she stepped up and has served as our Dharma School superintendent. So thank you very much, Nancy, for all your hard work. I also want to recognize another member of our Sangha who received a notable award, and that is a Pulitzer Prize, which is, so Gregg, could you stand up? So a member of our Sangha was part of a team that received the Nobel Prize in Photography for their documentation of the immigration issue at the border. So congratulations. We're really proud of you.
Hi, Margot, your friendly T-shirt lady. At the end of June, we'll be the BWA will be submitting an order to Maui Buddhist Temple for those lovely shirts that I'm modeling, and the next announcer will also be modeling it. And as the next announcer, this was a gift from her, so that's a loving kindness, a gesture on her part. Anyway, there are order forms down in the office. You have to order before the end of June, because that's when the order will go in, and we're paying for the shipping. So please get your orders in. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. I'm here to talk about Obon. So Obon practice will be starting up on July the 7th. So it's usually the first Sunday or Wednesday after the July 4th. So that'll be first practice July 7th, Sunday starting at 11 o'clock. And then we'll also have practices on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So it'll be every Sunday and Wednesday, starting July 7th up until August the 3rd. So Sundays at 11 and Wednesdays at 7. So the Obon practice we do in the parking lot there, and it's a lot of fun if you know the dances, so come and join us. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Have an announcement to make. We're having another Panda Express virtual fundraising opportunity. It'll be on Friday, June 14th. So next Friday will be our temple's Panda Express fundraiser. So if you haven't done this, it's really easy to do. You just order online, go to the Panda Express website, order online, and use the code that's specific to the temple, which is 922862, to order your meal. For the event, walk-ins will not be accepted. Everything has to be done online. So that's next Friday, the 14th, and 28% of your purchase will be donated toward the temple, and the fundraiser will support the temple's golf tournament, which will be held on Sunday, June 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Bill here again. I just wanted to let folks know that there are a number of silent auction items as well as raffle prizes that were won that are downstairs for pickup. We contacted everyone who won a gift card or gift certificate in the raffle. Linda was going to be contacting folks who won small appliances, but she was out several days last week and didn't have a chance to do so. So I will go ahead and take a look when I'm downstairs. If I see any of you who have won a prize, I'll let you know, but you're welcome to take a look at yourself. We really appreciate everyone's support of the bazaar, which was very successful for the temple. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Quick announcement. This is about the Obon shop. Most of you are aware that we raise money for scholarships. And, oops, I've already forgotten. August 3rd, okay. August 3rd is the Bonodori. And, did I say the right thing? Okay, so the Obon shop is going to be opening a little bit early. We're going to be hanging out in the Sangha Hall, and we have several weeks to set up. So I'll make an announcement in the Kaiho. Anyone who wants to help, come on out. It's a lot of fun. It's not so much drudgery as it is fun. Because I'm not sure exactly when we're going to be setting up, but in like 3 weeks maybe before the Bonodori itself. So if you've already been a helper, I've got your, I know where to find you. But if you would like to help, offer a few hours to help us set up, price things, and make things look pretty, you get a sneak preview of all the goodies that we've got. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you to today for everyone for participating in today's service and for making today's service possible. At this time, we will be excusing the Dharma School to classes. If you'd like to come up and do Oshoko.
Now we will have the adult portion of the service. After the English service, there will be a Japanese Dharma talk presented by Yukari. So if you understand Japanese or want to try to understand it, please come to the front after the incense offering. And we will begin with the Vandana and Tisarana, which can be found on page 96.
Please join me in chanting all parts of the Vandana and Tisarana. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho. Namo Kie So. Gasho Namanda 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 Namanda.
And now Smitty Sensei will give her adult message.
That was not a chord, that was a little bit of discord. Please join me in Gasho. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulty come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Namanda, 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 namanda. Good morning again. Are you sensing a theme here? Those words are still from the Metta, or Loving Kindness Meditation, which can still be found on page 94 in our service book. And they come to mind as I watched and read news from around the US and the world the past few weeks. And to be honest, these weeks weren't really much different than the weeks or months or even years that preceded them or that will likely follow them. There's the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine and the conflict that escalated in early 2022 based on Putin's views that challenge Ukraine's right to even exist. And this ongoing conflict rarely makes the top news stories in the US anymore. Putin has made the false claim that Ukraine was governed by neo-Nazis who are persecuting the Russian minority in that country. And he stated his goal was to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. To me, that sounds a little like the excuse the high priest used to have the crows killed in the story that I shared with the kids. Then there's the Israel-Hamas conflict that began in fall of 2023, when Hamas launched a deadly attack on Israel. And that conflict has escalated to constant fighting in the Gaza Strip and the bombing, starving, and killing of the people in Gaza. And this is all based on Netanyahu's stated goal of the eradication of Hamas. And not to make light of it, but this sounds a bit to me like the king's order to kill all the crows in the story that I shared with the kids. And Israel's actions in Gaza have sparked protests on U.S. college campuses, some peaceful, others turned violent. And of course, student protests have led university responses to the pro-Palestinian protesters, including suppression and suspension of students, while the police often crack down on these pro-Palestinian protesters and their encampments. Now, new protests have arisen in the form of grad student strikes and work stoppages across 6 of the University of California campuses, with the striking researchers and instructors agitated over the university's handling of the earlier student protests of Israel's military campaign in Gaza. And I can't even get into all of the news of the various factions in our country fighting and raging over issues, whether it's race or politics or religion, immigration, LGBTQ rights, reproductive freedoms. The list can go on and on. And at the heart of all this conflict, hatred, division, and discord is a total lack of compassion for all beings. We human beings seem to be incapable of aspiring for all beings, including strangers and enemies, to be happy and well, free of harm or difficulty, and to exist peacefully and harmoniously. There's no wonder why Shinran Shonin used to use terms like foolish or evil beings to describe the human condition, because we certainly aren't wise and compassionate, let alone simply good and kind to each other. All of this conflict and hatred and division and discord brought to mind another story that I'd like to share. It's not as light or moments of humor in it as the one I shared with the Dharma School. This is something that I recall being assigned to read for English class in my days in junior high school. Maybe you read it at some point too. The book is called Lord of the Flies, and it explores the dark side of humanity, including the savagery that underlies even the most civilized of human beings. It was written by William Golding in the early 1950s and published in 1954. And Golding intended this dystopian novel to be a tragic parody of what were at the time classic children adventure tales. And he was trying to illustrate humankind's intrinsic evil nature. As Shinran would say, it's about us evil beings. I did consider assigning the book as required reading for everybody and asked that you write an essay about the Lord of the Flies and the loving kindness meditation. But then I was concerned that most of you would come back to the temple for the next service and tell me that your dog, cat, or goldfish ate your homework. So instead, I'll share with you the Cliff's Note version of the book. And again, I know this is kind of a heavy subject, but sometimes we have to think about that. So Golding's Lord of the Flies presents the reader with a chronology of events that takes a group of young boys from hope to disaster as they attempt to survive in their uncivilized, unsupervised, and isolated environment. In the midst of a unspecified nuclear war, a plane evacuating some schoolboys from Britain is shot down, and this group of British boys find themselves stranded without adult supervision on a tropical island. The group is roughly divided into groups known as the little uns, which are boys around the age of 6, and the big uns, who are between the ages of 10 and 12. And initially, the boys attempt to form a culture similar to the one they had left behind. They elect a leader, Ralph, who, with the advice and support of Piggy, I'm glad I have the nickname Smitty and not Piggy, who is the intellectual of the group, strives to establish rules for housing, survival, sanitation, all those kind of things that a civilization needs. And three of the boys, Jack, Ralph, and Simon, set off on an expedition to explore the island. And when they return, Ralph declares that they must light a signal fire to attract the attention of passing ships. And the boys succeed in igniting some dead wood by focusing sunlight through the lenses of Piggy's eyeglasses. However, the boys pay more attention to playing than to monitoring the fire, and the flames quickly engulf the forest. And a large swath of dead wood burns out of control, and one of the youngest boys in the group disappears, likely having been burned to death and lost in this fire. And at first, the boys seem to be enjoying their life without grown-ups and spend much of their time splashing in the water and playing games, things that kids tend to do. Ralph, however, complains that they should be maintaining the signal fire and building huts for shelter. And a major challenge to Ralph's leadership is Jack, who also wants to lead. And Jack commands a group of choir boys turned hunters who ignore their duty of tending the fire so that they can participate in the hunts. And the hunters fail in their attempt to catch a wild pig, but their leader, Jack, becomes increasingly preoccupied with the very act of hunting. And Jack draws the other boys slowly away from Ralph's influence because of their natural attraction to and inclination toward the adventurous hunting activities which symbolize violence and evil in our lives. And when a ship passes by on the horizon one day, Ralph and Piggy notice, and to their horror, the signal fire, which had been the hunter's responsibility to maintain, has burned out. Furious, Ralph accosts Jack, but the hunter was just returned from his first kill, and all the hunters seem to be gripped with this strange frenzy, reenacting the chase in kind of a wild dance. Piggy criticizes Jack, who responds by hitting Piggy across the face. And Ralph blows on the conch shell and reprimands the boys in a speech intended to restore order. And at the meeting, it quickly becomes that some of the boys have started to become afraid. The little ones, in particular, have been troubled by nightmares from the beginning, and more boys now believe that there's some sort of beast or monster lurking on the island. And this conflict between Jack and Ralph, the forces of savagery and civilization that they present, is intensified by the boys' literal fear of this mythical beast roaming the island. Of course, one night an aerial battle occurs above the island, and a casualty of the battle floats down with his open parachute, ultimately coming to rest on the mountaintop. Breezes occasionally inflate the parachute, making the body appear to sit up and then sink forward again. And the boys organize a hunting expedition to search for the monster. They see this silhouette of the parachute from a distance and think that it looks like a huge, deformed ape of some kind. And the group holds a meeting at which Jack and Ralph tell the others of this sighting. And Jack says that Ralph is a coward and that he should be removed from office, but the boys refuse to vote Ralph out of power. And Jack angrily runs away down the beach, calling all the hunters to join him. Ralph rallies the remaining boys to build a new signal fire, this time on the beach rather than up in the mountain. And they obey, but before they finished this whole task of building the signal fire, most of them had started to slip away and join Jack. The boys who join Jack are enticed by this protection Jack's ferocity seems to provide, as well as by the prospect of playing the role of savages. The hunters get to put on camouflage face paint, and they go hunting, and they perform these ritualistic tribal dances. And Jack declares himself the leader of this new tribe of the hunters, and he organizes a hunt and a very violent ritual slaughter of a sow to commemorate this occasion. And the hunters then decapitate this pig and place its head on a sharpened stake in the jungle as an offering to the beast they think is on the mountain, which is really the dead aviator with the parachute still attached. Of all the boys, only the somewhat mystic Simon has the courage to discover the true identity of the beast that was sighted on the mountain. And when he first encounters this bloody, fly-covered pig's head, Simon has a terrible vision during which it seems to him that the head is speaking, and the voice, which he imagines as belonging to this Lord of the Flies, hence the title of the book, says that Simon will never escape from him, for he, evil, exists within all humans. And weakened by this horrific vision, Simon loses consciousness. He recovers later that evening, and he goes to the mountain where he sees the dead parachutist for what it really is. And understanding that the beast doesn't exist externally, but within each individual boy, Simon travels to the beach to tell the others what he has seen and learned. But the others are in the midst of this chaotic revelry in this tribal frenzy of the hunters, and even Ralph and Piggy have joined in with Jack's feast. And when they see Simon's shadowy figure emerging from the jungle, they perceive him as the beast, and the boys jump him and kill him with their bare hands and teeth. And the following morning, Ralph and Piggy discuss what they've done. Jack's hunters attack them and their few followers and steal Piggy's glasses to start their cooking fires with, because they seem to have a tendency to not keep their fires burning. And they leave Ralph unable to maintain his signal fire. And Ralph's small group travels to Jack's stronghold in an attempt to make Jack see some reason and to request the return of Piggy's glasses. But rather than discuss things, Jack begins to fight with Ralph, and one of Jack's hunters then rolls a boulder down the mountain, which kills Piggy and shatters the conch shell. And Ralph barely managed to escape this torrent of spears that come after him. Ralph hides for the rest of the night and the following day while the others hunt him like an animal. And Jack has the other boys ignite the forest in order to smoke Ralph out of his hiding place. Ralph stays in the forest where he discovers and destroys the sow's head, this Lord of the Flies. But eventually he's forced out into the beach where he knows the other boys will soon arrive and kill him. And Ralph collapses in exhaustion there on the beach. But when he looks up, he sees a British naval officer standing over him. And the officer's ship had noticed the fire raging in the jungle, and he was sent ashore to investigate. And other boys reach the beach and stop in their tracks at the sight of the officer. And amazed at this spectacle of this group of bloodthirsty, savage children, the officer asks Ralph to explain. And Ralph at this point is overwhelmed by the knowledge that he's safe, but he's thinking about what has happened on the island this whole time, and he begins to weep. And realizing what they had done and what they were about to do, the other boys start to sob as well. And the book ends with the officer turning his back so that the boys can try to regain their dignity and composure. And as you listen to this condensed story, I hope you notice the occurrences of the three poisons of greed, anger or animosity, and stupidity or ignorance, and how the boys were influenced by them. The boys resorted to this tribal us versus them mentality as they attempted to survive in their unsupervised, uncivilized, and isolated environment. And the boys exhibited very little concern for the welfare of each other and rarely acted with kindness, let alone compassion. This story from this novel came to mind to me because I think this is how so many of us are behaving in the world today. We're hungry for power rather than interested in governing or leading others. We reply with anger or hatred when anyone from another group or tribe conveys their thoughts or beliefs that might differ from ours, or even steps into our territory, our own turf. How might things be different if we each could aspire for all beings to be happy and well? How would our rivals, enemies, and even strangers act if we wished them no harm or difficulty? How might the world be if beings could inhabit this earth and dwell in peace and harmony? I'm not naive believing that simply chanting the metta or loving kindness meditation would end all world conflicts. But we have to start somewhere. even if it's in our own little part of the world. We either give in to our evil side or we attempt to rise above our inhumanity and attempt to live a more peaceful and harmonious life, a more compassionate existence in this world. And I, quite frankly, would prefer to try the latter. So please join me again in Gassho. May all beings be happy and well. May no harm or difficulty come to them. May they live in peace and harmony. Namandab, 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 namandab.
Thank you, Smitty Sensei, for your depressing message, but something to think about. And yes, I remember that story and hated it. Could everybody please stand for the Gatha Ondokusan, which can be found on page 128. Please be seated. Now we will have a final music meditation. I rejoice in the compassion of Amida Buddha. Mutually respecting and aiding each other, let us endeavor to work for the good of all. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, you are welcome to come up and offer incense. I believe there's hospitality downstairs in the dining area, and if you can, stay for the Japanese message, which will be given by Yukari Sensei. Oh, Ralph has one thing to say.
Hi, sorry, I forgot to mention this when about the Panda Express, but the temple does have gift cards on sale for Panda Express if you'd like to purchase it. They're $25 increment cards. So if you do use it for next week's fundraiser, the temple benefits from Panda, and then also the benefits a little bit from the sale of the gift cards. So you could purchase your gift cards downstairs. Laura Yoshida will kindly accept your, your sales. And if you need more information about the fundraiser next Friday, it's also on the temple website. Okay, thank you.
皆さんおはようございます。お元気でいらっしゃいましたか？よかったです。今日始める前にですね、ちょっと皆様にお伝えしたいことがあります。とっても嬉しかったことがあったんです。それをぜひ聞いてください。ちょうど1ヶ月ぐらい前に、私は日本へ行ってきました。行った理由は、私は今、中央仏教学院というところで、通信教育を受けてまして、コレスポンデンスコースですね、を中央仏教学院というところから取っていまして、それで1年目のテストを受けに行ってきました。それでそのテストを受けた後、私の姉やそれからいとこや友達なんかに会ってきました。それでね、そしたら日本に行ったら家族が「おかえりなさい」って言ってくれたんですね、私に。で、私もうアメリカにずっと住んでいるので、日本にはずっと住んでなかったので、おかえりって言ってもらってとっても嬉しかったです。それでね、今度サンディエゴに帰ってきたら、エフトンさんとシャーリーさんがサンディエゴのエアポートまで迎えに来てくれてたんですね。そして私の顔を見て「おかえりなさい」って「おかえり」ってまた言ってくれたんです。だから日本に行って「おかえりなさい」って言われて、でまたサンディエゴに戻ってきて「おかえりなさい」って言われて、私はね、もう本当に嬉しかったです。なんか帰る場所が2つもあるんだなと思って、両方で「おかえり」って言ってもらってどうもありがとうはい、それでは、今日のご参題を読みますので、礼拝、お念仏と合唱礼拝をお願いいたします。脈不少女の誓いゆえ、真行まことにと聞いたり、一年狂気する人は、往生必ず定まりぬ。ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏、ナモ阿弥陀仏。はい、ありがとうございました。今ちょっと難しい言葉があったので、それを、ご説明いたします。ニャニュフ少女の誓いゆえっていうのは、これは阿弥陀如来のご本願のことでございます。仏説無量寿経に説かれている四十八願の中の18願のこと、阿弥陀如来が法蔵菩薩だった時に立てられたお誓いのことでございます。そして次の真行誠にと聞いたりっていう意味は、このご本願を聞いて信心をいただいて、それでとっても、そして一年狂気する人はっていうのは、信心をいただいた時にっていうか、信心をいただいてとっても喜んで嬉しがる人は往生必ず定まりぬ。お浄土へ往生することが決まりますということです。というので、簡単に言えば、阿弥陀如来のご本願を聞いて信心をいただいて、それで嬉しくて喜んでいる人は、もうそれでお浄土に行くということが決まりますというご阿参でございます。それでなぜ私が、このご阿参を選んだかというと、お浄土のことのお浄土に行くというご阿参でした。これは 今読んだのは親鸞上人がお書きになったご和賛、浄土和賛の中の一つでございます。で、このご和賛を選んだ理由は、今日私お浄土の話をしようと思っているからです。この間、ある先生にお聞きしたんですけれども、お浄土はこの世の縁が尽きたとき、私たちのこの世の命が終わるときに帰る家のようだ、帰る家のようだと、その先生は教えてくださいました。だから今日はそのお話をしようと思います。私も本当にそうだなと思いました。このお話を教えてくれた先生は、広島にお家がある、広島にお寺がある先生でした。それで皆さんは東京にある築地本願寺ってご存知ですか？知ってる方いらっしゃいますか？失礼します。じゃあ東京に行くことがあったらぜひ行ってみてください。とっても大きなお寺で、インド式のとても素敵な大きなお寺です。大きな本堂があって、中にレストランとか、それからお土産屋さんとかありますの。あと本屋さんもあります。ぜひ行ってみてください。それでこの先生はこの築地本願寺に来られて法話をされていました。築地本願寺っていうのは、仏様の教えというプログラムがあって、それは YouTube でも配信していますので、もちろんサンディエゴでも見ることができます。で、その仏様の教えの法話をされるために、この仏様の教えっていうのは、毎週いろんな先生が日本各地から見えてお話をしてくださるんですね。それで1日に3回あります。それでこの仏様の教えは木曜日からだいたい日曜日まで週3回で、その先生は広島からいらっしゃって、この仏様の教えの法話をされるためにいらっしゃってました。それでそこでそれ以外にも朝のお勤めとか、それから他にいろんなお仕事があって結構大変だっておっしゃってたんですね。でもその先生がおっしゃるには、こうやって忙しくて大変なお仕事があるんだけれども、その日に帰る家があるから、先生がおっしゃってたのは、広島の家ではなく、この築地本願寺でお仕事された時に帰る、その夜に帰る家があるので、何も心配しないで昼間はお仕事ができて、お仕事が頑張れるっておっしゃってました。で、私もそうだなって思いました。私もそういうような経験があって、私日本に住んでいる時に東京で仕事をしていました。でも住んでいたのは東京ではなくて、結構離れたところに住んでいました。だから会社に行くまで、バスとか電車、地下鉄なんかを乗り継いでいって、だいたい1時間ぐらいはドアトゥードアで1時間もかけて会社に行ってました。それで朝は電車がすごく混んで人がいっぱい乗っています。みんな会社に行く人ですよね。で、乗っているし、駅も人であふれていました。で、そんな思いをしてやっと会社に着いて、そこでまた8時間とか9時間とか仕事をするんですよね。それで帰ってくる。 まあ帰りは朝ほど電車や駅は混んでませんけれども、やっぱり人はいっぱいいるから通勤はとっても疲れます。でもね、家に着いたら私の母がお帰りなさい、お疲れ様でしたって言ってくれていたので、だから仕事が頑張れました。だから私もこの先生と同じような経験をしてらっしゃったんじゃない、ごめんなさい、しておりました。それでその先生はまず家があるのはとても大切なことだっていうお話をしてくださいました。それで今日のお話は、お浄土はこの世の縁が尽きた時に帰る家のようだというのが今日お話ししたいことなので、まず先に帰る家があるのは大切なこととお話ししました。そう、このお浄土も帰る家のようにお浄土があるから人生でいろんなことが起こってもきっと頑張っていけるんだと思います。皆さん人生の経験が長い方がいっぱいいらっしゃいますし、私もいろんなことがありました。この頃あったことって言ったら、やっぱり大きな病気をしたこととか、それから私の犬が死んでしまったこととか、そんな辛いこともありました。もちろん楽しくて嬉しいこともいっぱいあったけど、辛いことや悲しいことも時々絶対に起こっていました。だからね、これから私はこの先生に、お浄土はこの世の縁が尽きた時に帰る家のようだということを教えていただいたので、私はそれを忘れないようにしようと思います。だってこれからまた何が起こるかわからないんですよ、私に。私はまた病気になってしまうかもしれないし、大事な人と別れなければならない。今度また新しい犬を飼ってるんですけど、その犬だってもう病気になってまた私より先に死んでしまうかもしれない。そういうことが絶対あるんです。起きると思うんです、私も。で、そういう時は阿弥陀様がお浄土をご用意してくださるから、大丈夫だから生きていきましょうっていうことを忘れないようにしたいと思います。それにこの頃つくづく思います。私の力ではお浄土へは往生できない。自分の力でこの輪廻の世界っていうのは分かりますか？生まれては死にを私たちは繰り返しているそうなんです。仏教はそういうふうに見ているんですね。で、そこから抜け出すことを自分では絶対できないと思うんです。私の歩んできた人生はそんな尊いものじゃないんですね。道徳的にいいことはたまにはしてきたかもしれないけど、それも自分中心で自分勝手に生きてきたような気がします。だから私は本当に阿弥陀様がお浄土をご用意してくださって、阿弥陀様のご本願で一緒にお浄土まで連れてってくださる。そのことを忘れないようにしたいと思います。ところでさっき言った帰る家の話、日本に帰ったらお帰りなさいって言われて、サンディエゴに戻ってきてまたお帰りなさいって言われて、で今度はきっと 3つ目の帰るところはお浄だと思います。お浄土だと思います。それで、私より多分先に行ってしまった友達や私の家族なんかがきっと私がお浄土に参らせていただいた時はお帰りって言ってくれるんじゃないかなと思って、3つ目のお帰りなさいの場所はお浄土だと私は思っています。今日は私の話を聞いてくださいましてどうもありがとうございました。では、現代語で蓮如上人の上人一流書を拝読いたします。これ日本では原文のままで読むんですけれども、そうなると昔の言葉なのですごく分かりにくいので、現代語っていうのは私たち日本で話している日本語のことです。今話している言葉だからそれで読んでみます。親鸞上人の開かれた浄土真宗の教えでは信心が基本です。そのわけは自分の計らいを捨て一心に阿弥陀如来に帰命すれば思いも及ばない優れた本願の働きによって如来が私たちの往生を定めてくださるからです。信心をいただいて浄土への往生が定まってくれた人々を正成就と示されています。そして信心を得た後に唱える念仏は如来が私の往生を定めてくださったご恩を報じる念仏であると心得るべきです。こちらは、こういう文章ひらがな版の、日本現代語訳を使いました。それでは合唱と礼拝もう一度お願いいたします。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏。ありがとうございました。